Hey everybody, this is Perch. Uh, Rob Liefeld. So I have nothing against Rob Liefeld. It's this weird way to start the video. He's a decent guy, and he's certainly you got to hand it to the guy who has been successful. I think he contributed to the X lineup. I don't think he was the most important person to contribute to the X lineup. I think that Chris Claremont for sure. I think, Jim Lee, John Byrne. I would argue Mark Silvestri actually had more of an impact, John Romita Jr., over Rob Liefeld, but that's not taking anything away from Rob Liefeld. Every now and then I say things like this, like, why do you hate Rob Liefeld? I don't hate Rob Liefeld at all. He definitely he left his mark on the X universe. I think that those other people did too. And quite frankly, regardless of where you are in that lineup of X creators or X-Men creators, look, I only hope to be named alongside people. I mean, if somebody's honestly debating, like, man, Perch is, he's not quite as good as Claremont, Byrne, Jim Lee, or Mark Silvestri, but he's up there. Like, fuck, like that's an incredible group of people to be around. So it's not a knock against Rob Liefeld at all. I think he undeniably left a mark and left an impact and had a big contribution to the X universe. No doubt about it at all. Liefeld is currently, it is funny. They're doing an X-Men celebration, and Rob Liefeld's one of the people who's part of this X celebration. And on one hand, you look at this thing and you go, well, they obviously can't invite Jim Lee. Silvestri seems to be more hanging out with DC at the moment. Maybe he could get to Marvel. I don't know. We're not quite sure. John Byrne, absolutely nobody's going to be contacting him. So I mean, you can't get a lot of the top guys. Claremont will be there as part of the celebration for sure. Nascenti probably, Wheezy, yes. But yeah, in terms of artists, yeah, Rob Liefeld's probably one of the top artists that is available who's continued to do work for Marvel, who could be part of this X-Men celebration. It is fascinating how, the people have been against it. And this is what the Xavier Files, some of these podcasts are like, oh, we don't like that. It is funny. If I think of Toxic Fandom, that channel, that podcast is one of them, for sure. I mean, anytime you're like, I'm going to boycott. I remember they did the same thing with Brett Booth when he did 2 issues of X-Men Legends. Like, the guy did 2 issues. And his podcast was like, we're going to boycott these comics because oh, shut the fuck up. That is toxic fandom right there. 100%. There's somebody who's a podcast dedicated to X books, but we're going to decide we don't like an individual in those books, so we're going to boycott. But the same thing's going on with Rob Liefeld right now. Marvel made the announcement that he's going to be part of their celebration. And you had a bunch of people in there like, I'm going to pass. My presence. I will not grace this online celebration with my presence because Rob Liefeld does not represent my values and my politics when it comes to... what are Rob Liefeld's politics? They involve no feet. I carry. He is... that is not a foot fetish guy. I'm kidding. Rob Liefeld doesn't listen to this channel, so I don't know why I care about insulting him, but there you go. We are against giant boobs for Captain America. Rob Liefeld not invited. I don't know. Rob Liefeld was the first person to make a major Marvel character trans. There you go, Mags. Always looking for people who are trans. Rob Liefeld's portrayal of Captain America with giant tits. Trans. Yeah, I said it. You said it here first, for sure. That is humor, by the way, for those people who do not understand my dry style. But anyway, here's a mail saying, hey, what about Rob Liefeld as EIC? Okay. It says, hey, Perch, on your recommendations, I have been listening to some of Miller Time episodes and enjoy them. Well, good. That is a good show. It's good interviews. Mark Miller's great. He interviewed Rob Liefeld, and Rob was his usual boisterous, enthusiastic self. It made me think of your videos about who could be the next Stan Lee of comics. Rob's infectious passion and joy for comics makes him a good candidate, in my view. I do think Rob Liefeld is a good candidate. The difference in Rob is let's see, how do I want to put this? Stan Lee could be boisterous and enthusiastic for whoever was paying him. If, Marvel wanted him to be a pitch man, he'd be an amazing pitch man. I don't know if Rob's quite the same. I think Rob, if you dumped a bunch of money on Liefeld and said, all right, I need you to be enthusiastic a pitch man for the thing that we're paying you for, I don't know if he could do that as well as, say, a Stan Lee could do it. Stan Lee could, however he felt, Marvel could have, killed his dog and burned down his house. And they're like, will you give Stan Lee a check? Yeah, he's going to be like, hey, they're true believers. Marvel maniacs. He could do it. Rob, I don't know. I think, Rob, I think on some level, he can go a long way, but he can't quite go that extra mile to, aggressively pitch and hype something he dislikes. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. You give somebody enough money, they can do a lot of things. But anyway, back to the mail. It says, in the interview, Mark mentioned how he feels comics need some sort of event that'd get everyone talking, not just outrage of the week. He suggested Rob becoming EIC of either DC or Marvel could be such an event. Rob was non-committal, but honestly didn't seem interested in this. Yeah, I'm sure Rob was not interested in it. We'll talk about it in a second. At least it was food for thought. What sort of event in North American comics do you think could get fans talking about the same thing, even if they disagree, enough to revive comics in North America? Well, it's not Rob Liefeld as EIC. That is inside baseball type stuff. And I think, some people may like it, but that's not going to give you a big sales boost. The big sales boost is to get to the normies. It's to get to the people who aren't collecting comics right now, to get them interested. That's the big moment. If you want to raise the money in comics, you can't, get the people currently buying comics to buy more. I mean, you can do that. That might give you a 10%, 15% lift. But you ever heard you can't squeeze more blood from that stove. Comic fans and collectors have given all they can give. They're done. They're at their limit. You can't suddenly you can't give them more. You can't give them more. So you're going to have to get to a new audience, and the new audience are the people not buying comics right now, and that is that normie audience. You got to figure out a way to get to them. And Rob Liefeld wouldn't do that. Now his style kind of, he might be a good pitch man and everything else, but the name Rob Liefeld doesn't mean anything to normies. Not really. Now he could win them over with his style and his personality and everything else, but it's, you can't take somebody from comics. You couldn't take a Jeff Johns. You couldn't take a Joe Quesada. You couldn't take anybody who's currently in comics and have that appeal to the normies. That name means nothing to a lot of the people you need to attract to buy the books. The style and the art would, but Rob Liefeld's done comics. I mean, he's done stuff for Marvel. He's got that Daredevil, series he does every now and then, that stuff. And they sell well, they're okay, but it's not the crossover book by itself that's able to bring in those people. None of this is a shot at Rob. It's just reality. You got to get new people into the door. You got to get new people there. And that's the only way you could do it. So, that's the challenge. Overall, I think that's where comics are struggling. They don't have that big moment. And again, Rob Liefeld is EIC. Yeah, I mean, that might be good for getting comics made. Rob Liefeld's leadership style, I don't know what that's like. I mean, I don't know what kind of leader he is in this regard, but that's you're going to need somebody who is a good, strong advocate who wakes up every single day and thinks, how do I make comics bigger? That's ultimately what's needed. And I think it's more than that, though. You've got to first get that spirit, but then you need a bunch of people executing against that vision. And the challenge that you have with a lot of comics is that every now and then you have somebody coming in who's inspirational, who can, do a good pitch, who can get a lot of these things moving. But unless you have executors, unless you have people who could take that vision and make something of it, you're still kind of stuck. And that's, right now, in my mind, yeah, you need a good pitch man. And there's a couple candidates that I think Mark Millar can certainly do that job. I think there's a guy who's very enthusiastic about comics. I think a lot of people who we've interviewed on this channel have a good passion and excitement for comics. The problem in my mind is really that next level down of management, still senior management, but say who could take that passion and translate that into, actions, into actual business tasks, into actual outcomes. To me, I think that's the harder bit that right now, there's a giant struggle to figure out. Until you can crack that code, you're stuck. And, who's that group? Rob Liefeld is the EIC. Hell, why not? But unfortunately, I think Rob Liefeld, whether you love him or you hate him, I think would feel a lot more like Jim Lee at DC than the guy you want him to be. Because as long as that next level down is not doing much, I don't know that it terribly matters. But, I'm all for enthusiasm and a strong pitch man and somebody who can really promote the value of comics. So, hell, I'll give anything a try. What do you guys think? Do you think Rob Liefeld's EIC is the answer? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course. And thanks for listening.